I didn't think the day would ever come where I would test a new Onimusha game by Capcom. On the PS2, the franchise boasted a whopping 4 titles, but it faded away shortly before the company's HD era began. Back then it was like a bridge between generations. It took the pre-rendered graphics and puzzle-solving logic introduced by the original Resident Evil on PS1, but combined it with action akin to Devil May Cry. And frankly, the straightforward action-adventure design actually holds up. The remaster of the second game this year was a refreshing reminder of that, which actually did a great job of remastering the core game without resorting to a full-blown remake. However, 20 years later, an entirely new entry had to be designed differently than in the past. There were reports that Onimusha wouldn't become a Souls-like and differentiate itself from similar samurai titles such as Nioh. Well, that was a lie. The new Onimusha is a Souls-like. Or maybe not a lie, just some hasty reporting on social media. The demo was less punishing than your typical Souls-like, and that's what Capcom had promised, that they wouldn't alienate any players with hardcore difficulty. But when it comes to actual gameplay, it's hard to wave away the inspirations. You've got your genre-typical enemy placements, lock-on duels, stamina bars, replenishing healing flasks, and boss arenas. People might pick it apart and argue that the stamina system here is different from the likes of Sekiro, and Onimusha does have some unique spins in its battles, such as short evade bonuses and combos, but the point is, this Onimusha reboot wouldn't exist in its current form without Dark Souls. By the way, none of this means that this felt like a bad game. It seemed very polished and I enjoy this sort of gameplay, especially since it doesn't intrude with heavy handholding while you explore. Similar to something like Nioh, this game doesn't have an open map but self-contained labyrinths. However, I hope the levels get more complex down the line. The first area was straightforward with only a few branching paths, not really comparable to Souls or even classic Onimusha, which often featured complex facilities more like Resident Evil. The puzzle solving from the past was also almost non-existent so far, not counting one obstacle where you had to activate a kind of detective vision and destroy a demonic root behind you to open a gate. While that was extremely simple, I assume that this mechanic will make for more sophisticated brain teasers down the line, or at least I hope so. The one thing it has over Souls-likes from Team Ninja for example, or frankly even over some of the From Software originals, is the production values. Onimusha looks better than many others in the genre. Also, the storytelling seems to have its own spin, thanks to the protagonist being more of a somewhat comedic airhead, who also has a sidekick to play off, as the demon bracelet from past titles now has a stoic, robotic personality. Still, I'm not playing this type of game for the story first. I guess one main selling point might be that it's on the easier side, so people who want to play something like Nioh, except more forgiving, will have a field day with this. To me, good Souls games were never really about punishments, despite the popular belief. They were built around survival or mastery of your weapon. It wasn't about punishments, but about having the right stakes to make danger feel real. But we'll see how the balancing of Onimusha turns out. I will say that the grunts during the intro did very little damage, which made the combat not really feel that intense until the first boss battle, but the boss battle itself was certainly not a button-mashing affair. Overall, I have little reason to doubt that Way of the Sword will be a very good title, but we've had plenty of Asian-themed Souls-likes at this point, with extremely similar art styles even, so a more traditional Onimusha experience could have been more of a proper breath of fresh air.